Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, April 29th. We're halfway through week 7 of COVID quarantine. And I know that for some of you, this is wearing pretty heavily on you. And I just keep praying for your patience and endurance during these times. I also pray that we would be listening well to Jesus. And you know that as a practice and a habit of our church, we on Sundays try to take time to listen to Jesus. And it's a skill and a practice that we need to learn as a community and we need to learn individually. My inspiration for what we do on Sundays came from a guy named Jeremy Peters, who's the pastor of the St. Albert Alliance Church. Him and his wife were speaking at a conference that I was at, and this was their practice to have listening time with Jesus. And I was just so moved by that and so impacted by that I wanted that to mark how I did ministry as well. So I'm really happy to be able to introduce you guys to Jeremy because he's affected me so much, and I've been able to bring leadership to ACC in this way, just so we can, you can see kind of where it started from. So let's go to talk to Jeremy now. Hey, Jeremy, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, man. It's good to see you, buddy.
I just am so thrilled for the time we get to spend together. I always feel refreshed after you and I've had some conversation and some prayer together. So it's a real gift.
Yeah.
And you're lead pastor up there at St. Albert Alliance. And are you feeling any effects of this COVID-19 deal up there, or is it kind of passed you guys by?
We live in a bubble. And we're experiencing it like everyone else, of course, and lots of opportunities to be formed in the way of Jesus in ways that we had not prepared for or anticipated. Feeling it on all kinds of fronts.
It's such a surprise. Hey, this whole thing is just, it's a fluid surprise. There's new things all the time to try and figure out. And what are you finding sort of some of your best practices to handle just maybe the unknowns and also the swiftly changing realities around us? What kind of keeps you anchored?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that when my wife and I were preaching together, one of the first Sundays was just talking about the difference between living in a what if mindset, what if scenario, versus living in a what now mindset or scenario. So Jesus says, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's got enough worries of its own. Just be concerned for today. And honestly, just that phrase, I'm not going to live in a what if moment, but I'm going to live in a what now moment, has been significant for Lisa and I. My wife's name is Lisa, but also within our church family. I've heard many people kind of rehearse that since that Sunday, and just saying, I'm just trying to live in a what now moment. Jesus, I can't control what if, but I can respond to you now. So what now? What do I do in this moment, in this hour, in this afternoon? And of course, the nature of how disruptive this has been internally for us. Sometimes that what now is happening like multiple times a minute or an hour, kind of things. Like, okay, I can't worry about that. I have no control. But
so you're saying that someone like you, who's you've been a Christian for a long time, you're mature in your faith, you still have to struggle with setting aside worry and anxiety.
Absolutely. Now, by temperament and personality, I'm fairly laid back and easygoing. My wife balances me out, and we kind of figure these things out together. So, and we have different worries. So, I tend to experience it in the leadership and pastoral role, and thinking about the implications for our church and for my team and such. And Lisa's carrying probably more than. I probably need to carry more with her in our family life, and some of those just sharing the rest of what it means to walk with Jesus in this season. So,
one of the ways that I've sort of introduced you a little bit to our people as you've inspired me. You and Lisa have inspired me in the area of listening to Jesus. And that really marked my life. Back in 2018, November, I was under your leadership and your and Lisa's leadership, and it was just so powerful in my life. So when I started here January 2019, we created a habit of listening to Jesus at the end of our service time after we've been into the Word, and then we'll just take time to listen to Jesus. So thank you so much for investing in me that way. And I want you to know it's been a blessing to our whole church down here. So I hope that's encouraging to you.
You're very kind. I'm grateful for Lord's grace in those things.
So how do people do that these days? Like, we're still trying to do that. Every week we'll spend time listening to Jesus, but are there ways people can be doing this better on their own, or how do we grow in our ability to listen to Jesus?
Yeah, I think, on some levels it's not complicated. On some levels is there a want to, and is there enough of a want to create space in which to do so? And so, when we were first kind of engaging this, everyone wants to know what God's will is for their life. I don't know if everyone does. A lot of people do. But then in terms of actually creating a posture of waiting on the Lord, that requires a different habit than maybe has been normal for people.
Yeah.
And so, I think part of it is just beginning to say, I want to, and I'm going to be deliberate to do so. I'm going to assume that the Lord has something to say, and not that there's something specific every single time I pause to listen, but I'm just going to get into a habit, a posture of waiting on Him, on the assumption that He loves me and He likes to talk about what He and I are working on together. And so, for people in our church family, I suspect it's very similar to what your people are, you guys are experiencing, but it's creating the space in which to do so. There's if the questions I'm coming to the Lord with are all tactical, like, so what do I do now, kind of thing, it's just not a great relationship cultivator.
Right.
And so, I way prefer to spend the majority of listening to Jesus as being talking about what's on His heart, talking about what's on His heart for me. What's He excited about these days? I'm curious to hear that, or what's He thinking about? I think it's important for our people to be asking the Lord regularly how He feels about them, so that I think those relational pieces are really important, especially when emotions are high. And this is just a season where there's a lot of emotional disruption. And my experience has been that when there's emotional disruption, it's a lot harder to discern, like, God's will, like, what am I supposed to do? And so continuing to just kind of come back to just places of just being with Him and with no real agenda. Like, I think if we come to listening to the Lord with an agenda, okay, I've got 10 minutes. What do I need to know?
Net it out, God.
Yeah, exactly. It's because He's gracious. Like, he helps us a lot more than we might think, even in those moments. But it's not a good long-term strategy, and it can lead to discouragement if you feel like, hey, I gave Him 5 minutes, I didn't hear anything. This doesn't work for me, or I can't hear God's voice.
Right.
And I don't think that's very helpful. My own personal practice, I try to set aside, do centering prayer where I'm not actually saying anything, and I'm not actually trying to hear anything. I'm just trying to be with Him. So I'll use some of, centering prayer practices that many have used. And there are lots of days, honestly, where I don't actually move beyond that to now coming to questions. Obviously, there are times, lots of times when I do. But what I'm trying to cultivate is just a posture of just being with Him, attentive to Him, open and expectant, but not needing anything
Mm.
beyond his presence. Like so, and that's why we like relational questions. Now, for those who are early on the journey or those who are feeling stuck, one of the things I love to encourage people to use is Sarah Young's book, Jesus Calling. I don't know if you're familiar with that devotional book, but it's those who are watching that don't know. It's essentially just a devotional. They're really short, but they're all written from the perspective of Jesus speaking.
Oh, wow.
And I have found, personally helpful, but like so many people within our family, our church family, like it just helped them to begin to hear what Jesus' voice maybe sounds like. They read, someone's articulation of what he may be saying. And it is a phenomenal tool. So it's been interesting now in this kind of COVID season. I've just posted, I think 3 times now, just a snippet from the Jesus Calling devotional within our Facebook group.
Cool.
And how many people have just said, oh, I need to pull that back out again. Or our whole group is using that devotional just as a way of just being attentive to. So anyways, I just say that that's a really simple way. Even someone who they're not even sure if God speaks yet, it can open up our hearts to that. And it's amazing how often even just that devotional just opens up ways to hear him. So I encourage people towards that who are listening. And then, the book that's been the most helpful for me and for our church family has been a book by John Eldredge called Walking with God. It's a series of, it's a year's worth of journal entries, essentially, of what it looks like beyond just trying to sit, okay, what is God's will for my life right now? But what does it look like just to walk with him? So those are kind of first things that come to mind.
Well, that's great, man. That's great. And it's that, I love that about leaning into the relationship first, no agenda. For the most part, is just hearing Jesus's heart. And how I think about Jesus when he was here, that's what he constantly did, was listen to the Father, got a way to listen to the Father. And I'm not sure what kind of marching orders he got, because it seemed like his life was filled with surprises. This person shows up, that person shows up, this person's in distress, that person needs healing. And so it seems like a game plan for the day, a to-do list might not have been the best thing to talk about. Maybe the better thing is to talk about the kind of heart that faces challenges when they come, the kind of character, the kind of relationship that is deep enough to handle whatever comes our way.
Sure. And I think sometimes, if we don't have something specific or whatever that we're asking the Lord about, or even to be ready for surprises, is even just to say, Lord, is there anything today you just want me to be aware of? Just anything I should just be, and so sometimes, there may be a sense of like, prompting to reach out to someone, or, sometimes I just had a sense that, you're just gonna have to persevere today, and it's okay. And sometimes I don't necessarily have a sense of anything, but I think that can be a way to still come with a listening posture, not knowing exactly how the day will all unfold, but you're just saying, Lord, anything I need to know at this point that's going to help me walk with you as the day unfolds. Obviously, sometimes there's a sense of spiritual opposition. We just have a sense, just be aware. Remember, we just have come through Easter, or remember what's ahead, or it's like, so just be aware. Jesus has an enemy, and so.
Yeah, that's so true.
Times. Yeah.
Well, that's good, man. Thank you so much for your time. Just really appreciate it. Like I say, you're a great inspiration to me and a good friend. And I know you're a blessing. You have been and continue to be a blessing to our church. So God be with you. Have a great afternoon.
Well, I should, but before you sign off here, have you signed off already?
Nope.
I'm still there. That's great.
You're always there.
Good for me. I want to tell your church family that you were an enormous, played an enormous role in my life when I was we just moved to Alberta 15, 16 years ago. I needed to have a a mentor for a leadership program I was doing. We had never met before, but I knew of you and had just really appreciated you from afar. And then I had some friends, mutual friends who knew you, and they said, I really should reach out to you. And I literally just cold called you and said, hey, we've never met, but I hear you're awesome. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to invest in me for a year and a half. And no one in your church will be surprised, but your immediate response was, absolutely, let's do this. And there were so many deposits in my life over that year and a half that just shaped me. And so it's fun to be able to be in a mutually edifying relationship. So
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Cool.
Let's keep doing this.
Yeah, man. Love you.
Okay. See ya.
Hey, bye-bye.
Well, I hope that was an encouragement to you. Man, so many good things he said. I love the what if versus what now. Boy, that really hit me. You probably see the look on my face when he said that. It was like, that sank in deep. What if? What if? We don't know what's going to happen. What if this? What if that? No. What now? Jesus, what would you have me do right now? We have enough grace for today. I love in Jesus' prayer where he says, give us this day our daily bread. All we have is today. And Jesus promises all the grace we need for today. So lean into that. And I also like what he talked about, being with Jesus without an agenda. And we need to learn how to do that. You know, instead of just checking in, okay, God, I got 3 things to talk about, and you got 7 minutes, let's go. Instead of just trying to find time just to be with him and be in his presence and let him be with you as well. That's such a great and beautiful thing. My prayer is that we all get way better at this, me included. So may God grant favor to us in that way, and may we connect well with him. I love you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your week.